Hey everybody, Manic back. This one is where the devs talk about the weapon changes from the IGN First stuff for January. I'm really excited about this. I want to learn more about the weapons. We know a decent amount. Like, we do know slots are back. We do know that certain skills are tied to the weapons. You have decorations that are specific for weapons and armor. We know a lot of that stuff. And we do know the skills that are tied to the weapons will upgrade as you upgrade the weapon. So, it will be interesting to see what they have to say about the weapon changes. They'll probably cover some about like combos and things like that, but then they'll also probably talk about the upgrade systems. So let's jump into it. We're being careful to maintain the good elements of past titles, while adding the positives we want to each weapon type. Oh! Sorry, that's a Radau hunting horn. It absolutely is. That looks good. I like that. It reminds me of, oh, who had the other one that had like the drums around the end like that? I don't remember off the top of my head. Damn it. It looks good though. Echo Wave Thunder? Is that new? Wait, are we getting echo waves for each element now? Because before it was only Dragon. Or Dragon and Stun, or Impact, whatever they called it. Echo Wave Thunder. I wonder if we are getting elemental ones. That's really interesting. Excuse me. As well as changes we want to make, or that we would better fit this game's concept. That's the approach we've taken to designing and tuning each weapon type. As for long-distance weapons like light bowguns, heavy bowguns, and bows, now that you're able to play continuously, that makes it harder to load into a different area and replenish your supplies like before. I mean, it will at first when you don't have camps up, sure, but when you get your camps up, it's not going to matter. Just throwing that out there. So we want to design basic damage sources to do damage without having to expend resources. So for things like normal, pierce, and spread ammo along with coatings, you'll only have to manage your gauge as you play. There's no limit so long as you have enough gauge. At the same time, we wanted players to still be able to prepare ahead of time or replenish supplies while on the field. Oh, yeah, look at this. Normal 1, infinite. Pierce 1, infinite. Spread 3, infinite. What? That's crazy. We've kept things like being able to get elemental ammo from what you find, while changing some mechanics for the sake of balance for these weapons. In terms of feel, I think the hunting horn changed a lot. Like its echo bubbles. We've created a lot of new actions. Yeah, we wanted to be able to properly depict bowguns, and the way they need to be charged up to fire various shots. What? We put a good amount of work into creating parts that get put onto them as a way of expressing that. Those gimmicks are what made the actions more convincing. We put quite a lot of effort into making clear what exactly a player is doing at any given moment. This goes for all weapons. But there are some actions that can be performed while riding a sacred. Actions that don't involve your weapon, or actions you can perform when dismounting from a sacred. Connecting actions in new ways and directions is something we've been working on since World. Yeah, and you see that not only from like what'd they call them? I don't remember what they call them in World, where you call in the mount and you jump on it. You can jump off and do attacks, but then in Rise they did even more and expanded on it with the Palamutes a lot. So they probably are taking all that and putting that to the Sacred.
武器しまいながらも動けるように
With
してる
help
みたい
from
なところが
technology,
技
we're
術的
switching
に
to
もそういう
creating
そう
things
補
like
完
being
し
able
な
to
がら
move in a
作る
certain
やり方
direction
に
while
変えていっ
stowing
て
a
るところ
weapon.
そうですね。今回
One thing I
初
think
め
we're
て
doing
入
for
れ
the
たの
first time in
は
this game
初期デザ
is
イン
designing
初期
starting
武
weapons
器
for
を
all 14 weapon types.
14種全部デザインしたっていうのは多分今回が初めてじゃないかな。初期武器って
It's always
本
been
当
that
に
you
プリミ
start
ティ
with
ブな
these truly
シン
primitive
プ
and
ルな
simple
武器を持っ
weapons.
てるっていうのが今までの通例で、でも今回でこう
But in this
それ
game,
が
you
選
play
ば
a
れたハ
chosen
ンターってい
hunter.
う立場でもあって、なんかそのシンプルな
It
武器
didn't
持ってる
feel
のも
right for them to
なん
have
か
such
ちょ
simple
っと違和感ある
weapons.
し、結構選ば
So
れ
we
た人
thought
っていう人たちの中
we thought a way we thought that a way of showing that you're someone who's been
の表現に
chosen
なってくるので、まあちゃんとその
would be the
制定
creation
さ
of
れた
properly
今回
designed
用にデ
weapons
ザイン
like
された武器
these.
っていうのが作れたらいいんじゃないかなっていうので、そういう意味では初期武器
In that sense, we've
を
designed starting
デザインしたの
weapons
が
for
今
the
回
first
初めて
time.
かな。設定か
I
らちょっ
mean,
とそういうのも
I
しっか
could
り
see that because in most games, it tends to be just, oh, you know, you have your basic iron weapon and basic bone weapon, and it builds up from there. That's what it tends to be. So, going with like a fully new design and then possibly still having those classic designs as well would be very interesting.
しっかりした方がいいよねっていうのはありましたね。
今回のその初期装備
The starting Hope series of weapons and armor is really cool.
あかっこいいですよね。最後までちょっと
To the
使っていって
point
も
where
違
you
和
could
感が
even
ないぐらい
imagine
の
using it
デザイン
until
に
the
なって
end.
るか
はい。結構体験の
When we first made the Great
集中
Swords
弱
Focus
点が最初
Strike,
に作られた時は結構なんか性能っていう
we
よ
had
りも
never
気持
made
ち
an
いい
attack
なっていう
where
か、ああい
looking
う
cool
感
mattered
じの
more
攻
than
撃って今まで
performance.
なかったので、ああいう
Having a chance to
表現も
depict
できる
something
ようにな
like
った
that
んだ
thanks
っ
to
て
this
いうのは
action
結構なんかいろんなこう攻撃のアイデアを出す
was
上
great
では
for
すごく
coming up with new
なんかいい
ideas.
ア
Okay.
クションの一つだなとは思ってましたね。なので、こういう
It felt like
こう
we
いう気
could
持
make
ちよさ
that
が出
feel
せるなら他
good
の武器でももっといろいろできそうだ
if we could make that feel good. Sorry. We could do more with other weapons
な
too.
とか、なんかそういうのはすごく
We
体
generally
験か
start
ら
with the
大体
Great
作るん
Sword
で、
as it's a
で
weapon
体
that
験
can
作った
kind of
時
do
に体
everything.
験ってかなりこうオールマイ
Yeah,
ティ
I
な
mean,
性能で作られてい
yeah,
るの
it can block big attacks. It has fast attacks too. Dodge, charge, yeah. Does just about everything
で、そ
outside
の
of
中で
range
一
stuff.
番その今回売りである
So
集
then
中
when
弱
we
点
were
どう
able
し
to
ようって
give
い
it
う
that
の
kind
で
of
結構
focus
ああいう表現
strike
が入ってくる
that
と、
this game's big
じゃ
selling
あ
point,
他
it
の
made
武
us
器は
feel
もっ
like
と
we
面
could
白い
do
ことできそう
something
だな
even
と
more
か
interesting
いうの
with
は
other
ありましたね。
weapons.
まあ、ちょっと重いテンポ感の
There aren't
武器
many
他
other
のアクション
action
ゲームにあんまり
games
な
that
かった
have
りす
weapons
るの
with such a
で、
heavy, slow
だから
tempo.
こそこう
That's why
後
we
半
use the
の
Great
基
Sword
準
as
ス
the
タンダード
standard
と
for
してまず
Monster
体
Hunter,
験を
making
しっ
sure
かり
it's fun
面
to
白く
use.
していくということで、そこから
Part of the
先他の
concept for
武
the
器と
other
しては体
weapon
験をじっ
types
くり
is
しなが
finding
ら、
ways
じ
to
ゃあどう差別
differentiate
化で
them
きるか
for
っていう意味合いで
from
今
the
の
core
武
weapon
器のコンセプトにな
that
っている
is the
ところ
Great
もあり
Sword.
ますので、
That makes so much sense.
なんか体験の
If we make a game that's fun to play with a weapon
面
as
白く
heavy as
遊
the
べる
Great
ゲーム
Sword,
にしとけば、あれより速いテンポ
that makes it easier to create weapons with
作
a
りや
quicker
すい
tempo.
んですけど、速いテンポ
But
感
if we focused on fast
が中
weapons,
心にな
that
っ
make
ちゃう
it
と
hard
遅
to
い
create.
武器
That
って
makes it
なかな
hard to
か
create
作ってい
slower
くのが難
weapons.
しくて、モンスター側がそこに合わ
The
せて
game will keep speeding
ど
up
んど
if
ん
we
どんどん
match
こう
monsters to
高
their
速化してい
tempo.
っちゃうので、まあ、あくまでも体験っていうああいう
I think that we
テン
end
ポ
up
感
with
の
a game with a
まあ
Monster
武器
Hunter
種で
like
しっかり
feel and tempo
お
to
互いを
its
調
action,
整して、その中で
by
速い
making sure
じ
that
ゃあど
both
こ
sides
こ
are
をメリット
properly
にしていく
tuned
かみ
with
た
a
いなの
weapon
で設計していっている
that
のが
has
結
the
果
Great
的にはモン
Sword's
スターハンター
speed,
らし
then
いそ
figuring
の
out the
手
strength
応
of
えという
quicker
か
weapons.
アクションのテンポ感になってるのかなとは思いますね。モンスターハンタ
A
ー
lot
と
of
しての
important
なんか
elements to Monster
大
Hunter
事な
can
部
be
分
found
が
in the
結
Great
構
Sword.
体験には入ってる気がしますね。この重さを
I think the design makes
なんか
people
大事
feel
に
that
作って
we
いく
care a lot about creating that
とこ
feeling
ろは
of
結
weight.
構感じても
Yes.
らえるデザインになってるんじゃないかなとは思いますね。
今回の装飾品ワールド式に
This game-
近い
This game's decoration system is similar to Worlds. Okay.
んですけども、まあ、特定のスキ
Decorations
ル
have specific skills that are activated by placing them into weapons or armor
だったり
slots.
防具のスロットに入れることでそのスキルが発動できるっていう形にはなるんですが、そ そのスキル
But if it's a
の
decoration with
一
just
種類
one
の
skill on
ス
it,
キル、複合スキルじゃなくて一種類のスキルであれば、
you
ま
can
あいわゆ
create them
る
through something
あ
like
の
alchemy.
錬金的なもので、 作ることができます。ですので、この
You won't find yourself
絶対
completely
手に入らへ
unable
ん
to
みたい
get
な
a specific
こと
skill
は
in this
今
game.
回ない。でも最大効率を
But
目
for the
指すと
maximum
不
slot
合したスキ
efficiency,
ル
you'll
の方
want to
を
get
目指して
decorations with
いった
multiple
方
skills.
が
Okay.
よりこう、別のスロットを使える形になりますので、なので、
So it won't be
ワー
like
ルドの時にあっ
World
た
where you just
強
can't
敵
get
じ
an
ゃ
iron
全然狙
wall jewel.
いまさに被
そう
害僕は
This guy does. I got plenty, but I don't use a lance.
もう全然出なかった。最後まで出なかった。
いう声もお聞きして
We've
ま
added a
す
system
の
to
で、そうした
respond to
対
voices
応は
like
入れ
his.
ています。はい。はい。
So I fucking called that a while back. I made a video it was a pretty short video, but I was comparing the two systems, the decoration and charm systems, in World and Rise specifically, since it was the same generation of Monster Hunter. I did this video because I was trying to think of a way that the systems could be merged for the better. I'm not saying they saw that video. It would be really cool if they did, just saying. But in that video, and I'll like link it somewhere or something, but in that video, I talk about like how World system works, how Rise's system works, excuse me, and how it could be put into one thing. I'll just quickly summarize it. Essentially, you can still craft, decorations that are single skills. So like your attack jewel, anything that's just one singular skill you can craft. But for your decorations that have multiple skills, you would have to grind for them, just like you do in a World. In all honesty, I felt like that was a really good idea because you can still get a good build with just singular decoration skills. Like, you really can. You just won't get the maximum efficiency stuff because you haven't grinded for the multiple decorations. And when I say multiple, and what they mean is, so for example, a decoration from World, the first one that comes to mind, just like something like attack medicine. So it would have one level of attack and one level of medicine, or like weakness exploit vitality. So it has one level of weakness exploit, one level of vitality. There were so many of these types of gems in World, like there were a lot of them. So that would be the idea, is those are the ones you grind for from monsters and quests and all that stuff like that in the end game. And then your singular skills are the ones that you can craft with monster parts. There you go. Now the idea, I don't know if they're going to cover it here. You know what, we'll watch the rest of the video. I'll mention charms and how I had mentioned them in that video as well. But we'll watch the rest of the video just in case to see if they do mention them.
エンドコンテンツに向かっていくとこう、
The
ある
range
程
of
度
monsters you
モンスターがこ
target
う
narrows
絞
as
ら
you
れていく
enter
じゃ
the
ないですか。
endgame.
一個あるか
I
なと
think
思う
there
の
is a
は、
case where
その
usage of a certain
対応
weapon
力
is
が
likely to increase if it's better at
あ
dealing
る
with
分
those
の方がやっぱ
monsters.
どうしてもこう上がりやすいんだろうなとは思ってて、でもこのモンスターにはめっち
I
ゃ
think weapon types will tend to be used
その
less
いける
if
け
they're
ど、このモン
great
スター結
against
構
one
苦手
monster
って
but
いう
have
やつ
trouble
は
with
どうしても
another.
使用率自体はどうしてもこう下がりがちになるのかなと思ってて、まあでもうちは
But
そういう
making
人
it
で
so
もこだ
that
わ
it's
って
still very
全
easy to
然
beat a
クリア
monster
で
with
きますよ
whatever
ってい
weapon you're
う、そ
fixated
の
on,
でもちょっとやっぱ頑張ってもらわ
without
ないと
giving it some
どうしても
effort,
こ
will
う
lessen
お
the
互いのモンスター
individuality
と
of
武
both
器
that
の個
weapon
性を
and that
失う
monster.
結果になっちゃうので、そこは失いたくな
I
いで
don't
す。
want that to
でも
happen.
いろんなことを
We have made
試
it
行
so
錯
that
誤し
it's
てもらえば
possible
絶
to
対クリア
beat
でき
them
ま
with
すよって
enough
いう
trial and error.
スタイルにはしているので、どうしてもそういう時
So
は
while there may
時
be
間
a
効率と
trend
か
toward
触りや
weapons
す
that
さと
offer
か
it
ク
all,
リアしやすさみたいなもので多少はオールマイティの武
in
器の
terms
方
of
に
time and
票
efficiency,
が寄っ
or
ちゃう
time
のかなってい
efficiency,
うのは
ease of
思いま
use,
すけ
and
ど、まあ
completion
それも模
difficulty,
範
I
か
think
な
that's just Monster Hunter.
ふうにも思ってます。
まあ、今回2種類武器が
Be able to
持ってる
bring
んで
two weapon
ちょっ
types,
と
so
尖
even
っ
if
てい
you
る武器を
have
2種類持つこと
somewhat
で
specialized
対応
ones,
力を
it'd
補完
make
し合い
me
ながら
happy if
遊ん
players
でい
use
ただ
two
く
to
ことも
complete
まあやってもら
complement
えた
each
ら
other.
はい、
まあ一つ嬉しいかなと思
はいい、
ますよね。
そうですね。
Yeah. Okay. So, real quick, let's just bring this back to here. So, for charms, I just want to cover this real quick since we were on that topic. For charms, the idea I had was that We take how World does them, where you can craft the charms that just have one skill. You can upgrade them just like you can in World, so you can get your attack charm up to level 3, and once the expansion comes out, all the way up to level 5, whatever, right? And then you could still grind for charms that have multiple skills. And then here would be the kicker, is that those ones, so and this was a bit more advanced, mainly because I was looking at it from the aspect of, we have the expansion. If we were thinking of it with the expansion, we'd be able to upgrade the base charm that just has one skill all the way to max, or almost all the way to max. So for example, like attack, we could get it all the way up to level 5 using World as the idea. You get it up to level 5, it has 2 more levels, but then you could augment it and maybe add a slot. And let's say your crafted charms can only get like a 2 slot. Let's just say that. And then the idea was that your RNG charms that you could get from either mining or quests, or a system like how Rise has something along those lines, an RNG system. Doesn't matter, because everybody does like it coming back to an extent. The idea is that you could, and it would be one of those things that gives you something to do. You could work to try and get a god charm that has some crazy bullshit and can get up to, like, you know, a 3 slot and a 2 slot, or a 4 slot and a 2 slot, something like that crazy, right? But if you were to get one that has multiple slots, using the attack 5 charm as an example, right? So your crafted one, end game with the expansion, would get up to attack level 5. Your crafted one could get attack 3, as well as a second skill on it in a second slot, you know? So let's say you could get attack 3, and then let's say you could get something like, let's say you could get vitality 3. So you could get a secondary skill that could be maxed out, like a utility skill. And that's how we balance it. If it's an offensive skill on a charm, it is balanced by the fact that a secondary skill on it is a utility skill, like vitality, steadfast, which is stun resistance, things like that. And that's a way to balance it. And then from there, it could be augmented to get more slots than your crafted charms. So like I was saying, your crafted charms could get like a 2 slot and maybe 2 1 slots, whereas your RNG charms could get like a 4 slot, a 3 slot, and a 2 slot. Things like that. It was super complicated. I didn't fully like flesh out the idea. I kind of winged it and was like, this is my idea for it. If I were to talk about it more in depth, I'd have a lot. I would honestly redo that video just focusing on the idea as a whole. But I just wanted to preface that because they mentioned charms in the, or decorations in this. I wasn't expecting that. So regardless, hopefully you enjoyed my ranting. If you have any ideas in that regard, definitely leave them in the comments. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'll see y'all in the next one, man. Hope we're getting closer and closer, so I mean, I still think they have one more map to show, but who knows, man. We're in the end game at this point. So, I'll catch y'all later. Have a good one, guys.